Crypto products are unregulated and could be highly volatile. Please be aware of the risks before investing.
राज, बाबूजी के आशीर्वाद से हमने अपनी नई शुरुआत तो कर ली, पर अपना फ्यूचर प्लान कैसे करें?
बड़े-बड़े शहरों में ऐसी छोटी-छोटी बातें होती रहती हैं।
Looking for perfect start? Get a Bitcoin today. Download the UnoCoin app.
जब मैं तेरी उम्र का था ना, तो एक सक्सेसफुल करियर, लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग सब रेडी करके रख चुका था। और एक इन महाराज को देखो, पूरा दिन फोन में लगा रहेगा।
दैट प्लानिंग तो मैंने भी कर रखी है, UnoCoin के साथ।
नए जमाने के साथ नई चीजें आजमाएं। Looking for Bitcoin? Download the UnoCoin app.
Guys, we really need to work hard. This wasn't a good quarter. Tell me, are you happy with this?
Yes! UnoCoin.
Want to earn Bitcoin? Just grab your phone and shake it. Download the UnoCoin app.
Bitcoin.
Get a systematic buying plan from the UnoCoin app to get your Bitcoin today. Download the UnoCoin app.
हेलो एवरीवन, वंस अगेन वेलकम बैक टू UnoCoin's वीकली लाइव सेशन। और आज हम बात करने वाले हैं एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक के बारे में। और आई थिंक दैट इज समथिंग दैट वी आल्सो आर वर्किंग टुवर्ड्स कलेक्टिवली, एंड द टॉपिक इज बिटकॉइन इन इंडिया, हाउ इज इट empowering individuals. And we have here with us Mr. Saurabh Setu, one of the most prominent and well-known names in the world of Bitcoin, and who's taking and doing his fair share of good work in the Bitcoin space. So hi Setu, how are you doing today?
Thanks, Shamvi, for that introduction. I'm doing well. What about you?
Yeah, I am great too, and especially I'm very excited for our today's topic because you as an individual are working towards empowering people via Bitcoin, and that is very interesting and something that I would very much like to know at the beginning of our session today. So, Saurabh, आपकी journey क्या रही है पहली बार Bitcoin में? What is Bitcoin for you, and how do you come across it? Because I just keep saying this that it's a place of rare intellect, and then what are you doing right now and everything.
आई थिंक एवरी टाइम दैट वी मीट अदर बिटकॉइनर्स ये बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन होता है कि हाउ डिड यू कम टू दिस तो मेरे सो विथ मी आई कीप केप्ट ऑन हियरिंग अबाउट बिटकॉइन लाइक अगेन एंड अगेन तो पहली बार आई थिंक इट वाज बैक इन 2013 व्हेन आई हर्ड इट फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम आई वाज डूइंग कोर्स बाय बालाजी श्रीनिवासन ऑन स्टार्टअप इंजीनियरिंग और उस कोर्स में पीपल हैड टू put up their website and sell products and services for Bitcoin, right? That was the end goal. I never completed that course. Like you drop out in so many courses, right? This was a MOOC that I took. I never completed it, but I realized there's something called Bitcoin, and it is useful if you don't want to set up a company, if you don't want to have payment gateways, integration, all that. You can just use Bitcoin addresses. That's what I knew about Bitcoin back then. Then I sort of heard it again in 2015, the place where I was learning a bit of web development. Therein, one of my teachers or one of my gurus, Freeman, was talking about building his own Jaga coin. So I used to live in a commune sort of place outside of Bangalore, where we would code and some people would farm and some people would build the construction, build the construction and sort of live away from civilization, try to code and earn money. And therein I heard again this concept of like making your own currency. Again, I did not pay attention to it. But the third time when I was working with Times Internet and I had my spare time over the weekends to sort of look at what is happening in the tech space, and I was also figuring out like what my next move should be. I had worked in a tech startup for some time, and I realized that in India, either you should go to a regional place to build something. For example, you focus on a certain geography, certain language, or you focus on operations. And I was not very comfortable with both of these things. So I was just trying to figure out what else is there in tech. And then I stumbled upon Bitcoin again. And this was the third time. So I was like, every time like this thing is coming to me, so might as well spend some time and read about it. So then I downloaded the white paper and started reading it. It didn't make sense to me. Like there was a lot of hype around it, but it did not make sense to me. I had heard of hashes back in college and in CS courses, but like a lot of people understood it from the white paper itself, and I did not completely. And that tells you like how technically how technically sound I was. So then I had to do a MOOC and I had to understand. And once I understood it, I was like, this is amazing. This is a dream. So my initial job was into digital marketing, and I had moved into product back then. And I was like, this is the dream. Like there's a machine that this is a machine that brings in people work for it. It brings in other set of people who mine it. It brings in other set of people who evangelize it. What if someone could build something like this? So, and that basically kept me fascinated. I was not so much fascinated with the other attributes of it, which is like it makes money finite. It makes other things. I was more fascinated from the fact that it's a great product. It's an amazingly beautifully designed money. Yeah, so that's what my journey to Bitcoin has been. And since then I have tried to figure out like what can I do in this space. So my first attempt was I was reading through other coins in the space and trying to make sense out of it. So मेरा एक दोस्त है Manish, who is in investment equity space, equity analysis, and he told me that why don't we analyze? We were anyways discussing and talking about it. तो उसने बोला कि let's sit down over weekends and let's start like analyzing it, and let's start like putting whatever we analyze on these coins. So Token Monk was our first thing that we started on the sites. It was just a place wherein Token Monk, as the name suggests, it was just a place wherein we would put our analysis that बेस कॉइन में हमें ये समझ में आ रहा है, ये प्रॉब्ली करता होगा, या ब्लॉक स्टैक में हमें ये समझ में आ रहा है. So that was my introduction to it. That led me to a job in Consensus. Consensus एक क्रिप्टो कंपनी है, MetaMask और Infura इन सब की जो पेरेंट कंपनी है वो कंसेंसस है, तो उसमें थोड़ी देर मैंने काम किया। उस काम करने के दौरान मेरे को समझ में आ गया कि मेरे को क्रिप्टो में ज़्यादा काम नहीं करना, बिकॉज दिस इज नथिंग यूजफुल दैट वी आर बिल्डिंग। And again, that cycle, going back to Bitcoin, and I'll rather build there. And I came back to traditional product jobs. तो मैंने Go Mechanic join किया, वहाँ पे I was leading product, और वहाँ पे दिन में काम करता था, और weekend पे I would still figure out like what more can I figure out in Bitcoin. And that journey was lonely, and like there was not a lot of Bitcoiners trying to figure out technically. And that's when I met Raj, and I figured like, if this is a problem for us, this must be a problem for other people to figure out Bitcoin technically. And we started a school around it. Yeah. So I'm looking after the operations aspect of it, a bit of program. That's where I am, and that's what I do.
That's super super interesting and very fascinating, Saurabh, क्योंकि I think हम जितने भी बिटकॉइनर्स है, राइट, आई थिंक इनिशियल जो पहला या दूसरा इनकाउंटर रहा होगा, सबने रेजिस्ट किया ये तो होगा कुछ, who cares and things like that. And I think I come from the very similar storyline, because same was the case with me. And I mean, कुछ लोगों की किस्मत भी होती है, रेयर इंटेलेक्ट तो है ही, जो मैं कहती रहती हूँ, इट्स अ प्लेस ऑफ रेयर इंटेलेक्ट. Alongside that, I think it's also a lot of kismet that we are able to comprehend this technology from and ins and outs of it, of what it is and what it is capable of doing in the world, and things around that. So I feel like
Have you heard of people for whom it stuck the first or second time itself? Like, did it happen with you that it struck you the first or second time itself?
for me it did not, and I can barely recall कि कोई ऐसा जिसको मैं जानती हूँ जो पहले या दूसरी बार में जिसको इसमें काफी इंटरेस्ट आ गया हो.
Yeah, that's what my experience has been too. Yeah.
I think वही है, like it keeps daunting, right? There's something in the back of our head, we're like, yeah, okay, who cares? But then it keeps daunting us, and then eventually once we realize and once we start reading, we feel like काश जब तब पता चला था तब इसके बारे में पढ़ लिया होता.
I was my first job was at IBM, और हम लोग there was this Lodha building in South Parel, and we would look outside of the building, and one of my friend was from Patna, and he was like, if अगर मेरे दादाजी 100 साल पहले आ गए होते और यहाँ एक छोटा सा चॉल ले लिया होता तो आज हम लोग करोड़पति होते. And I like, that is not true with your दादाजी. Like, अगर आज आप ऐप डेवलपमेंट में जाओगे, IBM में हम लोग SAP कंसल्टिंग एंड all these tools कंसल्टिंग करते थे. मैंने बोला कि अगर आप आज भी आप एप्स में जाओगे तो आपके 2 जनरेशन बाद बच्चे यही कहेंगे. तो आई थिंक अपॉर्चुनिटीज नेवर गो अवे. मतलब हमें लाइक पीछे देख के हम बोल सकते हैं बिटकॉइन हैज गेन्ड फ्रॉम व्हाट $1 in 2012 to what price, to the price that it is, but वो risk appetite भी बहुत ही अलग है. How do you store those bitcoins? Like back then you had paper wallets, you did not probably had such hardware wallets, you did not have multi-sig custody. तो अगर खरीदते भी तो या तो खो जाता है या तो appreciate नहीं करते तो बेच देते. It's very difficult to drive life forward looking at the rear mirror. तो बहुत ही मुश्किल है वो चीज बताना. बट हाँ, आगे देख सकते हैं कि आगे क्या क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज है बिटकॉइन में, आगे क्या क्या कर सकते हैं, व्हाट ऑल आर पॉसिबिलिटीज.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. एंड ये काफी इम्पोर्टेंट भी है कि हम आगे की चीजों को देखते हुए चले. लाइक सात्विक कीप सेइंग दिस इन मोस्ट ऑफ आवर सेशंस दैट देयर इज नो बैड टाइम टू गेट इनटू बिटकॉइन. Every time is good time if you're getting into it today. If you got into it like 10 years ago, if you're gonna get into it in the next 5 years, any time is good time. And I think we are still early, which is something you should be proud of. So Saurabh, again coming to the school part of it, कि आपको कहाँ से idea है कि maybe we should do the education part, and then again what is Bitshala focusing on, what sides of it, and if you could tell us a little about Bitshala.
Yeah, so me and Raj hung out at Bitcoin Design Community, which is a community focused on Bitcoin designers. So the way that community works is, अगर आपको mostly पता ही होगा, but for the audience, it's a Discord forum again, जहाँ designers hang out करते हैं, and they're trying to solve the problem of accessibility of Bitcoin. तो Bitcoin अभी बहुत difficult है, काफी सारी चीजें standardized नहीं है, transaction कैसे broadcast होता है, private key, people should remember their private keys या फिर their seeds, which is different from how people use passwords, right? या फिर wallets का concept और browser का concept बहुत अलग-अलग concepts हैं. Wallets are kind of browsers. Like if you want to enter into a Bitcoin space, you have to start using a wallet first. So how do we solve all these problems? इस पे काम करते हैं. तो वहाँ पे I used to hang out. I used to get into design review calls या कोई भी product feedback अगर मेरे पास होता था तो I would offer that. And that's where one of the cohorts was happening around Bitcoin, and me and Raj met there. Then there was another educational cohort that was happening for African students. It was called Kala, and I had applied there too. They told me that this is only limited to African folks, and like right now we have not opened it for people coming from other continents. So I knew that there is some momentum and some demand for what I'm trying to do, what I'm seeing around myself. And then Raj and me met in person in Bitcoin for India event in Goa, and a while back before that event. And we saw the number of developers that are contributing into this space, especially after the amazing work that Adi has done with Summer of Bitcoin. And we felt that what Summer of Bitcoin has done for students who are inside the colleges, we can do that for people who have a professional job, because both of us, Raj and me, had a professional job, and we're trying to figure out how can we learn Bitcoin more technically and build something in this space. And so that was the idea, right? How do we open up the opportunity to develop like either contribute in layer 1, layer 2, or any other open source code using Bitcoin. And we started working on it. Like, to start with, we just had a couple of our favorite books that we liked, and then we had seen what kind of books other residency programs or other such programs had picked up. और फिर हमने वहाँ से शुरू किया. We initially reached out to our network and our people that I knew and that we knew in the circle. We got some people to join our cohort. In the first cohort, we had only 2 graduates. Right? There was only 2 graduates who completed the first cohort, and they were Fazal and Shreya. Right? Those are the first 2 graduates, and we did the second cohort of Mastering Bitcoin, which had like 100 plus participants, and 20 or so around actually graduated that cohort. So yeah, so I can basically see the sort of interest and the sort of momentum that it has taken, and which is a pretty good thing to see. Now the next set of challenges: how do we assure that people who are graduating are finding a decent gig or a job in the Bitcoin space, as in whatever is out there for them to be able to build. How do we sort of find those opportunities for them, or how do we help them get to those opportunities? So that's where our other focus is going to be going forward.
That's an amazing thing to focus on, because I do see and come across a lot of Bitcoiners with a lot of potential, right? But यही है, इंडिया में भी अभी growth जो है वो काफी I mean अपनी pace पे हो रहा है, and amid that there are not many companies offering opportunities. There are not many companies, as a matter of fact, to be able to offer opportunities at all. So in such a scenario, it becomes very difficult for somebody to stay relevant for this space, because as somebody who's very enthusiastic about Bitcoin, they want to contribute in Bitcoin in whatever capacity they can. But sometimes कई बारी क्या होता है कि उनके livelihood expenses and everything. So I mean, obviously people have to look for options, and I really appreciate you doing that, because that is something amazing. So Saurabh, जब Bitcoin की बात होती है, right? What is Bitcoin to you? Like, how do you look at it?
तो जैसा कि मैंने पहले बताया था कि मेरे लिए जो पहली चीज़ बिटकॉइन में काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग लगी वो था कि it felt to me like there has been a lot of attempts at building a machine which can sustain itself, and there are a lot of talks about this car can run forever, this machine will continue to work forever, but no one has been able to build such a machine. So the first thing that, and when you're building a startup, right, you look at other case studies. So you look at Airbnb, how did Airbnb grow, or you look at like the kind of product that Google built, or like the kind of other things that other people in technology space are doing, and you marvel at their distribution, or you marvel at their brand, or you marvel at the fact that the kind of engineering talent that they can draw. Bitcoin was doing everything at the same time. So I was like, what is this beast? Like, how is it able to draw the attention of all the people? How is it able to draw people to contribute to the code without paying anything? And how is it being able to draw all the miners who are doing the database update job without really paying anything. And they're just being paid in Bitcoin. Like, so what? Like, Bitcoin is not really worth anything. And how is it like creating such massive influencers who are all the time talking about Bitcoin and shilling Bitcoin to everyone and orange pilling everyone? Like, why is that happening? So that was very fascinating to me back then. Right now, the aspects that sort of feel very amazing to me is that Bitcoin has given me a new tool, a new lens to look at the world. So if you have a rose tinted glass, the world looks rosy, right? If you have a hammer, you find nails everywhere. So it's just an amazing tool. Whenever I talk to anyone around me, like, I sometimes I don't like put it, and sometimes the other person gets tired कि भाई ये हर एक बात में बिटकॉइन ले आता है बट मेरे को वो फ्रेमवर्क दिखता है, तो मेरे को वो चीज बहुत फैसिनेट करती है. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ शाम को हम लोग बाहर गए थे एंड वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट द न्यू survey that has come out, which was talking about how many people own what kind percentages of assets on an average in India. And then I started seeing like there's almost 0% people owning crypto or Bitcoin. So the opportunity to grow is so massive. Similarly, when you look at any problem, you can actually figure out like how does in some way or the other Bitcoin fixes it. Like there's a meme around it, no? Bitcoin fixes it. So वो चीज मेरे को fascinate करती है. And I just feel that there's so much that needs to be built. There's just so much that needs to be built to make that happen. And that's why there's so much work that needs to go into doing all of that. Abhi to it's not even usable to a regular person. Like a regular person can hardly even buy it at an exchange. Like there's so many KYC requirements, or most of the people in the world, 90% of the people are not gonna buy Bitcoin. Like they'll probably earn it for whatever they're doing, or they will probably get it in some sort of reward. So yeah, there's a lot of scope to just distribute Bitcoin to people, and then you will have a Bitcoin economy which will function like differently. Like the bottoms up effect will be different because you have everyone who has some or the other form some Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, that is yet to happen, और वो बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग सीन होगा देखने के लिए. एंड आई अग्री विद द फैक्ट कि आई मीन 90% लोगों के पास है नहीं, और आई थिंक मोर देन 90% पीपल आर नॉट इवन इंटरेस्टेड इन इट. सो दैट इज अ चैलेंज.
वो तो नंबर्स को, अब टेक्नोलॉजी जब काम करती है तो फिर लोग आते हैं. तो द साइकिल, people will come, but I think you will still be able to just get in 10%. numbers go up से भी. बाकी तो you have to start like paying them for their work, तभी हो पाएगा, या फिर शायद या उसके बाद.
आई मीन या वो बहुत बड़ा इंसेंटिव है अपने आप में, बट जब फंडामेंटल्स की बात आती है बिटकॉइन की एंड द प्रॉब्लम्स दैट इट इज सॉल्विंग, आई थिंक या इंसेंटिवाइजिंग इट माइट मेक द route to it easier. But then again, I feel like the fundamentals are strong in itself to have any enthusiast who want to, from the financial aspects of the things, कि अगर किसी को भी अपने पैसे को डीवैल्यू होने से बचाना है, अपनी जो रोज की मेहनत मजदूरी हम करते हैं टू गेन सम मनी, अगर उसको डीवैल्यू होने से ओवर द इयर्स बचाना है, सो आई फील लाइक बिटकॉइन इज द ओनली ऑप्शन दैट पीपल हैव आउट देयर. एंड the minute somebody understands that, they're a bitcoiner. This is my belief.
True. I think deflation proof अगर कोई एसेट है जो ओवर टाइम शायद ज्यादा लोगों को समझ में आएगा ये चीज, बट बहुत ही कम एसेट है which can beat inflation consistently and which has beaten inflation, and Bitcoin is one of them. And the longer the time will pass, लोगों को realize होगा, and people will come to Bitcoin to save their money from being inflated away.
Exactly, and that is the beauty of it, जो मुझे लगता है. क्योंकि अब जो मेरा अगला सवाल भी आपसे होने वाला है, जब हम इंडिया की बात करते हैं तो हमें पता है कि फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी का लेवल क्या है, एंड देन घुमा फिरा करके किस तरीके से लोग अपने पैसे को समझ भी नहीं पाते हैं. अब वो टैक्सेशन इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, पैसे इतने कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हैं, इन्वेस्टिंग इतनी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, लास्ट में ऑप्शन होता है लोगों के पास एफडी. सो व्हाट हैज योर एक्सपीरियंस बिन लाइक व्हेन इट कम्स टू explaining people about the pro sides of Bitcoin, and what have been the counter questions that you have been asked?
Yeah, so this reminds me अभी latest ना अक्षर श्रीवास्तव का एक post आया था wherein he was talking about equity prices have doubled and real estate has doubled and Bitcoin has more than doubled, and inflation is eating your wealth. And someone who was 60-year-old person replied, and that was the top voted comment: money is not everything, stop focusing so much on money. And I actually feel that money is not everything. Money is in fact like not even not super important thing. But what has happened is we live in a time when it has become so important to save your money from being inflated away. So probably the 60-year-old person will not realize that, because they did not face it in his generation. I was talking to a friend of mine who told me his grandfather was not earning as much money as he is, or like not remotely as much money that he is earning. I mean, he's someone that we all know, and he was like he still could sustain a family of 14, and he is still not sure like when he can get married or when he would want to have kids, because he's not sure like the money that he earns is going to sustain that kind of family. So people do understand there's something wrong around them, but they don't all of them correlate it with the fact that because of how the society has been structured, and because of how massive like because of how rampant the theft has become. Like आप tax pay करते हो, which is great, but आप उसके ऊपर से required pension funds पेंशन के लिए 12% 24% पे करते हो, which is also good. आपके बुढ़ापे में आता है डिफ्लेट होके पैसा वो, but आप फिर आप अगर कुछ इनकम अर्न करते हो तो आप उस पर कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स देते हो 30%. So and all of these in itself seem like that's an okay thing to do, but you don't understand like there is no way that this is not sustainable. And in this environment people have to think about like आप वो पैसा कहाँ इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो, कहाँ रख रहे हो, which is actually not desired अगर आपकी इकोनॉमी में इन्फ्लेशन नहीं है, अगर आपकी इकोनॉमी में इतना ज्यादा थेफ्ट नहीं है तो शायद ये डिजायरेबल नहीं है. तो अपना 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 टाइम आप उस प्रोडक्टिव काम में इस्तेमाल कर सकते हो जो सबसे ज्यादा यूजफुल है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर कोई डॉक्टर है तो ही कैन जस्ट सर्व द पीपल थ्रू मेडिकल सर्विसेज. कोई इंजीनियर है तो ही कैन जस्ट सर्व पीपल, ही शी कैन सर्व द पीपल थ्रू इंजीनियरिंग सर्विसेज. लेकिन आप एक ऐसे इकोनॉमी में हो जहाँ पे आपका आधा दिमाग इस पे रहता है कि मैं ये घर ले लूंगा तो मेरा पैसा इतना बच जाएगा, या फिर अनफॉर्चुनेटली वी लिव इन दोज टाइम्स. और ये चीज धीरे धीरे रियलाइज हो रही है सबको, एंड पीपल आर लुकिंग फॉर सोल्यूशन, especially the relatively younger population.
बिल्कुल, एंड आई थिंक ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट भी है, क्योंकि अगर हम 1 मिनट के लिए क्रिप्टो को, बिटकॉइन को अपने दिमाग से निकाल दें, अगर हम डिफरेंट, यू नो हाउ आई लुक एट इट, बिकॉज I have this analogy that I often use to explain people what is going on with the money, which is like a matka analogy. Imagine you have a matka, you're trying to fill it up with all your hard work and everything, but there's a hole in it. Water is flowing out. So 1 मिनट के लिए हटा दो दिमाग से कि हमारे पास एक दूसरा मटका है नेम्ड बिटकॉइन, वो हम कंसिडर नहीं कर रहे. बट क्या होता है कि उस छेद को हम बंद करने के लिए वी आर यूजिंग टूल्स लाइक यू नो सिक्योरिटीज, इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, ये सारी चीजें, इक्विटीज, गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज, SGBs, different sort of asset classes. But then again, how long is it going to hold that जो भी पूरा वो हो रहा है, because that is not in our control, right? And we are doing this मेहनत every day trying to make money. We are trying to save money in government के listed securities, including SGBs, sovereign gold bonds, which was considered a really good investment options. It has been considered a really good options over the years. Now the government is calling for an early redemption of those. So I mean, ये घूम फिर के बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस यहाँ पर आ जाते हैं कि आप अगर इन्वेस्ट भी कर रहे हो तो आपका उन इन्वेस्टमेंट्स पे कितने हद तक कंट्रोल कर पा रहे हो, अगर कंट्रोल कर पा रहे हो तो कितना ज्यादा आपका जो पैसा है वो इन्फ्लेशन से बच रहा है. वहाँ पे काफी सारे क्वेश्चंस आते हैं.
आई थिंक यही फ्रेमवर्क अभी माइकल सेलर की जो टॉक थी अबाउट बिटकॉइन, ही वाज यूजिंग द सेम फ्रेमवर्क. सो ही वाज टेकिंग एवरी एसेट और वो बता रहे थे ये एसेट कितने साल लास्ट करेगा. तो ही टुक एन एग्जांपल ऑफ हाउस, ही टुक एन एग्जांपल ऑफ रैंच, and he took the example of equities, he took the example of gold, and then he compared them with Bitcoin. एंड द फ्रेमवर्क वाज हाउ लॉन्ग आप कुछ बना रहे हो अपने लाइफ में, तो आप चाहते हो कि वो बना रहे, वो उतनी जो आपने मेहनत की वो पास ऑन हो, तो वो कितने दिन तक लास्ट करेगा, एंड दैट्स द फ्रेमवर्क दैट ही वाज यूजिंग. तो आई जस्ट वांटेड टू call that out. You can check that video. It's probably titled Bitcoin Double Maxi and Triple Maxi Strategy. Chaitanya Chaitanya had probably made the presentation for him. He also has a very interesting Excel spreadsheet on it. Yeah.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. आई थिंक इट्स अ मस्ट वॉच. मैंने आई थिंक इसकी एक दो कहीं पे छोटी क्लिप्स देखी थी. आई हैवंट सीन द एंटायर वीडियो. आई वाज होपिंग टू सी दैट, बट नाउ दैट यू हैव गिवन द फुल नेम, आई थिंक आई हैव गॉटन माय बिफोर बेड टाइम वॉच फॉर टुनाइट.
Okay.
No, I mean, Michael Saylor is the most amazing entrepreneur out there right now. He is the one who's understood this before BlackRock, before Larry Fink, before a lot of other people. And I mean, MicroStrategy just needs dips to buy more and more and more and more Bitcoins.
Yeah, I think the whole company is. I don't know what software they make, and no one even cares. Yeah, all they care is the next news that will come out from MicroStrategy. कब नया Bitcoin खरीद रहे हैं.
Actually, as a matter of fact, I will agree with you there, because even I did not know कि अभी तक जब तक आपने mention नहीं किया तब तक के बाद भी मेरे दिमाग में नहीं आई थी कि MicroStrategy क्या build कर रही है. I've always known them associated with the news. Oh, MicroStrategy buys these many more Bitcoins, these many more Bitcoins. The reserve is increased to this much. I mean, they're doing great वहीं पे, and I think घूम के कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि वो Bitcoin के exchange बना ले खुद को, because they have acquired so many Bitcoins already.
I think that's what is the main thing that they do. They just acquire Bitcoin, and because they're a publicly traded firm, the market, more market participants have an access to buy their stock.
Yeah, and I mean, I know कि अगर अभी MicroStrategy का जो shares भी खरीद रहे हैं, right, उनको भी इस बात का फ्यूचर में बहुत बेनिफिट मिलने वाला है. जो decisions and calls that Michael Saylor is making with regards to Bitcoin purchases at the moment is going to benefit that. So again,
I
guys, do your
wonder.
own research. I'm not endorsing MicroStrategy के shares.
हाँ, मतलब if you can buy Bitcoin, you should like buy it directly if that is a possibility.
Of course, yeah. I mean, not your keys, not your coins. अब वो चीज़ हमने ETFs के साथ भी कई बार बोली है, but I mean, fiat world को Bitcoin world से एक लिंक चाहिए, कोई एंकर चाहिए. जब तक वो बिटकॉइन को पूरी तरह समझ नहीं लेते हैं, जैसे काफी ज्यादा एक जो मेजर रोल प्ले किया है इन चीजों में सेंट्रलाइज्ड एक्सचेंजेस ने भी प्ले करा है विद रिगार्ड्स टू बिटकॉइन मेन स्ट्रीम अडॉप्शन. सिमिलरली माय परव्यू विद रिगार्ड्स टू ETF इज दैट it is also going to serve as something, a tool for mass adoption. But yes, people will eventually realize that it is more important to get Bitcoins on their own and hold their own keys, because not your keys, not your coins.
True. वो ideally best है. Like you hold your own coins. If someone else is holding your coins, they can always give you back a piece of paper. It happened with gold. It can happen again with Bitcoin. And if it would have worked out well, that trust would have worked out well in case of gold, we would have never needed Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, but who knows? History might repeat itself. So yeah, let's see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being a believer of open market is something that comes alongside being a Bitcoiner, because I think thought process or congenial, not congenial, but the general set of convictions उनको challenge करना is what we are very much used to, and we keep doing that with our fiat friends, I'm sure. Okay. सो सौरभ, एक और चीज काफी जो अभी हाल में भी चर्चा में रही है, रिसेंटली बिटशाला का एक सेशन भी इस पूरी चीज के ऊपर था, विच इज माइनिंग. अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल कीप आस्किंग वेरी ऑफन कि ना मैं क्या प्रोस्पेक्ट है माइनिंग का, इज इट प्रॉफिटेबल, इज इट नॉट प्रॉफिटेबल, इफ इट इज देन व्हाट इज द वे टू गो अबाउट विद इट. सो इफ यू कुड जस्ट गिव अ क्विक ओवरव्यू ऑफ द सिनेरियो अराउंड माइनिंग इन इंडिया.
तो माइनिंग मेरे ख्याल से anyone who is in Bitcoin is aware, mining is a process through which new Bitcoins are brought into circulation. Plus, there's a validator who makes sure that जो global ट्रांजैक्शन लेजर है, जो ब्लॉकचेन है, वो सही सही है, राइट? दैट्स व्हाट एज इन नोड्स वेरीफाई करते हैं, बट नया ट्रांजैक्शन कलेक्ट करके ब्रॉडकास्ट करने का काम माइनर्स को होता है, उसके बदले उनको इनाम मिलता है, नया नया यू नो नया नया सप्लाई ऑफ कॉइन्स और ट्रांजैक्शन फीस, ये दोनों चीजें उनके लिए इनाम है। नाउ ये होता कैसे है? तो ये होता है ऐसे है कि जो माइनर्स होते हैं वो बहुत हैशेस जनरेट करते हैं, वो बहुत अल्फा न्यूमेरिक स्ट्रिंग जनरेट करके कोशिश करते हैं कि वो लकी अल्फा न्यूमेरिक स्ट्रिंग जनरेट कर लें। So they run very energy intensive machines to generate all these nonsense, to generate all these random numbers, because it's like आप एक random number throw कर रहे हो universe में, and if you guess the right mantra you will unlock a path to somewhere, right? So it's the same. They are throwing random nonsense, and because you need to run this continuously, you have to have energy sources. आप इसको एक ऐसे एनर्जी सोर्स जो कि लाइक अर्बन इलेक्ट्रिसिटी से भी रन कर सकते हैं, आप इसको एक रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी से भी रन कर सकते हैं, लाइक सोलर और हाइडल पावर। आप इसको एक आपके पास स्पेयर बायोमास प्लांट है, या फिर आपके पास अगर ऐसा गैस या फ्यूल सोर्स है जो आप बेच नहीं सकते हैं, आप वहां भी इसको यूज कर सकते हैं। सो ये ब्रॉडली लाइक माइनिंग इकोसिस्टम और कैसे एनर्जीज पे डिपेंड करता है, वो मैंने समझाया। नाउ इंडिया में रिलेटिवली, क्योंकि इंडिया एक वार्मर कंट्री है, और इंडिया में अगर आप सिटीज में देखेंगे तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी रेट्स भी बहुत ज़्यादा है एज कम्पेयर टू अदर कंट्रीज जहाँ पे शायद ये जो सब्सिडाइज्ड हो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी। तो बहुत सारे शहरों में तो आई वुड नॉट थिंक बिटकॉइन माइनिंग विल मेक सेंस, बट अगर आप ऐसे सोर्स के पास रहते हैं जहाँ पे रिन्यूएबल सोर्स है, आपके पास सोलर है, आपके पास हाइडल है, जो आप अगर ग्रिड पे सप्लाई करेंगे तो बहुत ही चीप रहेगा, 2 रुपए यूनिट मिलेगा आपको, वो आप बिटकॉइन माइनिंग में लगा सकते हैं। दूसरा, अगर आप एक कोल्डर रीजन में रहते हैं, आप पहाड़ों के पास रहते हैं, तो इट कैन ऑल्सो एक्ट लाइक अ हीटर। देयर आर लॉट ऑफ बिटकॉइन माइनिंग मशीन्स आउट देयर which can also warm your house. I think all the Bitcoin miners do warm the temperature around that place, but there are purpose built miners who are like room heaters. तो आप वो ले सकते हैं, तो आपका घर भी गर्म रहेगा, और वो जो आप हैश जनरेट कर रहे हैं, that can also mine electricity, that can also mine Bitcoin. तो I think in India में it has to be मेरे हिसाब से the case has to be made specific to आप कहाँ रह रहे हैं, आपका इलेक्ट्रिसिटी सोर्स क्या है, और आप क्या ग्रिड से कनेक्टेड हैं या नहीं है। तो ये चीज़ वहाँ बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है जहाँ आप ग्रिड से कनेक्टेड नहीं है, क्योंकि कोई भी एनर्जी सोर्स है, फ्लेयर गैस है आपके पास, बायो गैस है आपके पास, एक छोटा सा हाइडल पावर है, तो पहले आपको उसको वहाँ जनरेटर लगा के आपको उसको कनेक्ट करना पड़ता था, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन वायर ला के, ट्रांसफार्मर ला के, तभी आप इलेक्ट्रिसिटी सप्लाई कर सकते थे। बट अब आप वहाँ माइनिंग कर सकते हैं, और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी आप माइनिंग में कंज्यूम कर सकते हैं, बिटकॉइन अर्न कर सकते हैं, बिटकॉइन सप्लाई कर सकते हैं आप एक्सचेंजेस को या कहीं भी, एंड यू कैन गेट कैश इन एक्सचेंज ऑफ इट। तो आई सी वो बहुत प्रॉमिसिंग स्पेस है मेरे हिसाब से। अदर देन दैट, आई थिंक अगर आपका मैथ्स काम करता है, वी हैव डन अ बिट डेव्स ऑन दिस, अगर आपका मैथ्स काम करता है, देन यू कैन प्रोबब्ली लुक एट इट।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। अब just give me a very I think I have also heard of this in existence somewhere, but you can just create a hot water spring somewhere if you're living in pahad and all, वो heat use करके, so imagine how much cost cutting also वहाँ से आप कर लोगे। So there are things that can be done.
हाँ, आई थिंक अगर बट हॉट वाटर स्प्रिंग्स विल नॉट बी सफिशिएंट, आपको उनके साथ मतलब यू विल हैव टू buy some equipment, some generator to convert that like flow of water into electricity, and therein you'll have to figure out is all that investment that you are making is going to produce like say 200 units of electricity, then that investment makes sense because आप one time investment तो कर रहे हो। सो वो सब चीजें कंप्यूट करने के बाद आप फिर एक छोटा माइनिंग सेटअप लगा सकते हो। दूसरा पॉसिबिलिटी है, आप एक इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यूटिलिटीज कंपनी के पास जाके उनसे बात कर सकते हैं कि अगर कोई नया इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यूटिलिटी कंपनी सेट हो रहा है एंड दे डोंट हैव ट्रांसमिशन टू दैट स्टेशन, दैट स्टिल इन वर्क्स, कुछ सालों में शायद ट्रांसमिशन पहुंचे, तो 2 साल या 1 साल जब वो जनरेट करना शुरू करेगा पावर स्टेशन, तो एक 2 साल वो बिटकॉइन माइन कर सकते हैं, और उसके बाद जब इट हैज इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रांसमिशन सेटअप, तब इट कैन स्टार्ट सप्लाइंग टू wherever it was supposed to supply. So that's also a possibility. Bhutan is experimenting with a lot of, I think, mining. There are two reasons. One, like I think it also makes these countries sovereign. These are smaller countries, so if you have like this Bitcoin reserve, probably it helps you get USD or other currencies. I'm not completely sure about it, but second thing is they have probably excess hydel power and they can use that for mining too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bhutan is doing great. I mean, it's been in news for this for quite some time, and I really wish to go and explore two of the things. One is Bhutan, क्योंकि close by है, उतना खर्चा नहीं लगेगा. दूसरा, whenever I can, I really want to go and visit and experience the Bitcoin economy in El Salvador. That is also something that I really look forward to, because those people are also using volcano. I think what is that to use that for Bitcoin mining.
Yeah,
Some
I also read about that. They have plans of setting up, setting that up.
Yeah, I mean, that is so fascinating. Just look at it, an abandoned volcano. Nobody would go near that, and you can just use that for Bitcoin mining. Best out of waste, literally.
Yep, absolutely.
So सौरभ, another thing, जब हम बिटकॉइन में पैसा बनाने की बात बोलते हैं ना, तो एक कॉमन कंजेक्चर ये भी है कि बिटकॉइन में पैसा बनाने का तरीका है, वो है माइनिंग है, बहुत ज्यादा हो गया. एंड उसके अलावा और किसी को कोई तरीके नहीं दिखते जिससे बिटकॉइन में पैसे बनाए जा सके. सो सिंस यू आर वर्किंग ऑन द एजुकेशन साइड ऑफ द थिंग्स एंड आल्सो वर्किंग टुवर्ड्स kind of creating a job eco space for the people who are into Bitcoin, what all opportunities do you see, or what all fields do you see somebody can make themselves useful and make good money?
Yeah, so like there are two things in here. One is if you all understand that Bitcoin is the best form of money and you are already convinced about it, then you know that if it is the best form of money, it should naturally happen that every company will own it in their balance sheet, every individual will own it in some form or the other. Now, that is a real possibility that will happen 50 years, 10 years, 8 years, 20 years later, depending upon how much of a believer you are. But it's definitely a superior form of money. Now, in that world, we'll be using Bitcoin to make all our payments, to use it as a asset, which will dematerialize other asset forms. तो उस आप वहां से भी बैक ट्रैक कर सकते हो कि उस दुनिया में क्या क्या चीजें चाहिए होंगी एंड व्हाट ऑल हैज बीन बिल्ट और क्या क्या चीजें नहीं बनी है. फॉर एग्जांपल, एक जो ऑब्वियस एरिया ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी है वो है इंडिया में. मुझे ऐसा लगता है इंडिया में या फिर इंडिया के बाहर भी, क्योंकि यू डोंट हैव टू सर्व जस्ट इंडियन कस्टमर्स, बट इंडिया के बाहर में काफी सारे कंपनीज के बैलेंस शीट में दे हैव मनी एंड probably a lot of them will own Bitcoin the way MicroStrategy owns Bitcoin. You will have MicroStrategy for every country. Like you have Uber for every country, you'll probably have MicroStrategy for every country. And the reason you will have MicroStrategy for every country is because there are a lot of regulatory and like accounting accounting or regulation बहुत ही country specific होता है. तो I mean every country will have to like go to that path. Every country में companies will have to go to that path wherein if they're holding Bitcoin in the treasury, they will have to talk to the SEC equivalent body in the country, will have to figure out all the rules. तो वो एक area of opportunity तो है ही. दूसरा, I think education is definitely an area of opportunity. Massive work needs to be done on education, and education is not simply just a technical part of it. Like how do you use Bitcoin? How do you custody it? How do you do inheritance planning around it? How do you pay taxes to the government, which is due when you're holding it? I think वहाँ पे काफी information lacking है. So education on that front. The third area that we probably are like working on Bitcoin is for Bitcoin to become a mainstream thing. A lot of technical enhancement and improvement has to be done. Now, all of it will not be funded in the next 2 years or next 3 years. So it's an interesting research problem. So when you are out doing research and you are probably pursuing anything out there, like for example, you are probably pursuing semiconductors, right? You have to have a sense of where the semiconductor industry is moving. You have to have a sense of what will get some grant or get some funding or get some users or get some VC capital, and you should have the talent to go out and build it. So therein having a broad understanding कि ये space कैसे evolve हो रहा है, for example mining कैसे evolve हो रही है, या फिर lightning network कैसे evolve हो रहा है, कौन सा possible area of opportunity ऐसा है जहाँ पे there are a lot of ecosystem players who depend on common software, और हम लोग क्या वो common software जाके बना सकते हैं जिससे बहुत सारे जो lightning companies हैं वो उसको use कर सके. lightning wallets के case में, as you can see, like you see people use lightning wallets for smaller transactions, जो भी buyers and sellers अगर कोई internationally receive कर रहे हैं तो therein a lot of course, like lightning wallet itself is an opportunity area, but lightning wallets के पीछे you have like liquidity service providers, LSPs जो रहते हैं, they are the ones who are making money, because so you can also look at setting up LSPs and running and maintaining those LSPs, and then you can earn money. So those are the areas of opportunity that I am aware of from my limited understanding of the space. We chose to focus on like on the technical education because we believe that that's where we will probably like do a good job at, because we don't come from regulation and understanding of all that other aspects, and yeah, so that's what we do at Bitshala.
That's also great because हमको पता है हमारा India is, I think, one of the only place where it has its own Silicon Valley, where I think we both are sitting right now, and the amazing place actually. And इतने developers है, इतनी technical knowledge है, इतनी भयंकर understanding है, and such brilliant minds in this country. And I think Bitshala is doing a great job providing them with a platform to understand the aspects, even get opportunities in this particular space, and that is something that require the most amount of work, in my opinion, at least, as I see my I mean. There's so many things happening out there right now. Sadly, people have broken down components of Bitcoin and are considering them as a greater pursuit of knowledge. से namely अभी काफी colleges में आप देखोगे कि GP courses में blockchain as a study as a discipline introduce किया जा रहा है, which is nothing but a say a side course or something that we gain credits from. But again, it's very interesting to see चलो कि कुछ तो वहाँ पे हो रहा है. That itself is a big deal. So I consider that a win as well, because a lot of people are working towards that. So Saurabh, another thing before we close our session for today, in India, it has become a capitalistic economy of sorts. It has always been a mix of socialistic and a capitalistic economy by the books, but now it has become more of a capitalistic economy. And in this case, where MSMEs are being supported by the government, where the major initiatives towards the startup India and things like that. How do you see that these new and upcoming startups, new and upcoming companies, be that in any industry, can leverage their operations or say their whatever they're doing with the use of Bitcoin or by implementing Bitcoin into their ecosystem?
Yeah, so Bitcoin has some other attributes apart from finance wali cheese. For example, it's a global forever ledger भी. तो आपको अगर कुछ information रखनी है तो आप इसमें store कर सकते हैं. A lot of people are not using Bitcoin for that, and a lot of people are against using Bitcoin for that. But ये एक use case तो है ही. Beyond that, you have other use cases like prediction market, which also Bitcoin offers a great solution for. But I think jahan pe there are obvious opportunities, and those will not completely happen by just private companies doing it. Like they will need to talk to government and figure out like if they are playing by the rules. But remittance is a great area, right? What happens, and Strike has repeatedly shown that it's possible. So right now remittance is broken, and you have to go through multiple hoops to transfer money. If you have a company, for example, if you're transferring USD to INR in India, you can have just 2 points. In US, you deposit it to an exchange. The exchange converts it into your Bitcoin into USD. Your exchange converts your USD into Bitcoin, wires those Bitcoin to Indian address, wherein you again convert it back into INR, and you have like very simple remittance. So your prices for offering, आप जो एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं उसमें जो भी रेमिटेंस का रोल होता है, आप वहाँ पे इसका यूटिलिटी है. आई थिंक वो एक यूज केस मुझे दिखता है. एज फार एज गवर्नमेंट इज कंसर्न, मुझे लगता है कि इफ दे हैव एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट in a multipolar world, if you have to decrease your reliance on dollars, which is effectively what we all work towards. Like हम जितना भी काम करते हैं वो अगर as a country we export, we earn dollars, and using those dollars we go out and buy stuff. We buy petrol, we buy clothes, all of that. So we are effectively working to, all of us as a whole are working to earn more dollars. So agar we start holding Bitcoin as a treasury asset, or in the individuals or the company owners inside the country start holding Bitcoin as a treasury asset, that safeguards us from having to rely on one single currency in this multipolar world. Like you should not ideally do that. We have recent cases wherein that has not been a very effective strategy. You have seen like how Russia, when they kept their Bitcoin, they kept their USD with the American banks, those were confiscated when the war broke out. So it's a good, I think it's in general it's a good idea to hold some Bitcoin even for the government, and to like make it legally more easy for people to hold and corporations to hold Bitcoin. I think that will go long distance. It's like you are opening up the economy in 1991 for private enterprises to flourish. It's like that. You have to figure out rules as to how do you still manage the control and how do you still manage the transition of money, and that can be done. There are a lot of countries which have shown that that is possible, like El Salvador and other city charter and city and nation states which are trying to adopt Bitcoin. But I think that's the right place to go. And once you do that, then other opportunities around Bitcoin open up. For example, companies can hold it in their treasury and they can pay employees maybe in Bitcoin. They can figure out like there are other companies that will spring up, will figure out how do you do the custody of these Bitcoin. In America, there's huge industry around helping companies hold Bitcoin. You have River, you have Strike, you have Swan, Unchained. All of these cater to companies holding Bitcoin in the balance sheet, right? So you will open up a huge economy which will be built around Bitcoin. And I think that's the right path to go forward.
Very interesting. Now that you have mentioned remittances as well, I think we have some time and we can take one more question. Since you have mentioned remittance, a lot of these countries have come up with a very interesting concept, CBDC, to also solve this problem. And how do you look at it as compared to Bitcoin when solving remittance is a major problem?
Yeah, so even in remittance, you are trusting some other government, right? And I think the challenger to dollar, if not Bitcoin, is digital dollar, right? A country which already has such massive advantage, uh, I think USDC makes like uh, the term that you mentioned was like uh, I. I basically wanted to say that if you have this world wherein the fiat becomes more controlled, you will have like even stronger dollar, and you do not want that. So
Yeah.
the other option that you have is to hold all kinds of currencies, or the other option that you have is like keep a section of your savings into Bitcoin. Uh, yeah.
I mean, keeping a section, I feel like once somebody understands Bitcoin and the kind of ease it is going to provide you, especially if you are living abroad or you are sending money in from abroad or making such transactions, you understood Bitcoin, and I think there's no going back. There's literally no going back that I see somebody would do, unless and until, of course, they would have made some blunders while transacting and maybe use some other medium. There are ways where scams happen and people tend to happen. People happen to have bad experiences, and that is somewhere they might want to take a step back. But I mean, I think once you understand this completely, this feels like the best option available out there right now. And I think ज़्यादातर जो हमारे US based Indians हैं, as we call them, NRIs, not just US based but also different countries में जो based है. I think the reason why we see so many NRI Bitcoiners or Indian origin US Bitcoiners is also because they come across Bitcoin in the process of getting a solution for remittances. That is something that I see very commonly happening around, that anybody I'm asking, I think the thing was कि उनको remittance के लिए कोई solution चाहिए था. The charges are so much, like you rightly mentioned, उसको भेजने में the amount that is being deducted is so much. If countries are not solving that, again, there has to be a proper solution out there for it.
True. I think एक framework बालाजी का भी था इस पे, which was very interesting, which was when and it was on God, state, and religion, God, state, and network. which was on like when you had nation states coming up, you had a lot of secular people who believed in nation states strongly, because you have all kinds of people, right? People who believe in no god, people who have believe in one god, and people who have believe in many gods. And he gave the framework that nation states initially like could, the ones who do not believe in any god could easily see the utility of nation states like far more, because there was this new construct coming up. Other people probably did not latch onto it initially. Similarly, people who do not believe in one nation or probably believe in multiple nations can see the utility of Bitcoin a little more easily, because they are not so bound by the idea that you have to use INR or you have to use USD every time. But yeah, that's true with NRIs. So NRIs are straddling between multiple countries, so they see the futility of you having to shell dollar or like INR. They see whatever is the best money, they will just take it up. So I think that's why they're the first few. That's why they are also the first few in India to get that, in my opinion.
And I also really appreciate all of actually most of these people trying to do something in India as well. But like you rightly mentioned कि जो एक भगवान में believe करता है उसके लिए चीजें कुछ थोड़ा beyond. Again, guys, this is a very metaphorical thing to say, so please don't take it otherwise. But yes, I mean for them to look beyond the curtain is a little bit more challenging as compared to the other two categories, and I think that is what India majorly struggles with at the moment as well. And I talk when I talk about Indian people, I talk about lower middle class and the yeah, also the upper middle class in this regard. This is the category that needs Bitcoin the most, and I think this is the category that is struggling to see the use case of it the most.
I hope the numbers go up, cycle comes soon, and they see the utility of Bitcoin. That's the most obvious utility, store of value, and rest of the things hopefully follow soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we had an amazing chat today, Saurabh. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation today. And I hope everybody who's been watching this session also got to learn a lot. And अभी उसके बाद आपको बिटशाला के बारे में पता चला है, make sure to go and follow Bitshala. You will get a lot of things to learn from there. You can also come to the meetups, join the online sessions that are happening, just how we do here at UnoCoin. It's ज्ञान हर जगह. I think this is something that Rancho said in Three Idiots कि ज्ञान चारों तरफ से बट रहा है, आपको जहाँ से भी मिल रहा है, if you can get it, just go ahead and get it. So on this note, we'll be closing in our today's session, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. We'll be seeing you again next week, same day, same time. Till then, stack sats, stay humble, and have a great week ahead. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Shambhavi and UnoCoin. Thank you so much.